Hey, I'm Erin.
And I'm Ange.
And we're from the Bitch Talk podcast. And we believe abortion is healthcare because
nobody knows our bodies better than we do.
Abortion is healthcare, period.
Abortion is an essential component of healthcare.
Abortion is healthcare because having control over reproduction is a basic human right.
Abortion is healthcare because without this legal, effective, and safe procedure, women and birthing people's lives will be put at risk.
Abortion is healthcare because it is a vessel of freedom that combats racial injustices and creates bodily autonomy and power of self.
The ability to make a decision about a person's own body, the ability to access an abortion can have a huge impact on their mental health, their physical health, the trajectory of their very lives.
The decision to have an abortion does not come lightly. Anyone who has been faced with that decision is making it for a very deliberate reason. And it is imperative that we respect the decisions that people make for the future of their own lives.
In my years as a clinic escort, many pregnant people confided in me about their decision. People have abortions for all sorts of reasons, and every single one of them is valid.
Abortion is healthcare.
Abortion is healthcare, full stop. And healthcare is a human right. Pass it on.
Hello, my name is Candelaria Vargas, and I'm the Director of Public Affairs, Planned Parenthood Advocates Mar Monte for the Sacramento area. Thank you so much for joining us today to fight for abortion access. Today I recognize that we are on Miwok, Niseinan, and Maidu land. I'm grateful for the people of different backgrounds, beliefs, and walks of life to join and create this event to support abortion access. Sacramento was a gathering place for many local tribes who have lived throughout the Central Valley and the foothills for generations, and were the original stewards of this land. And we acknowledge that we are present on the tribal lands of Sacramento's indigenous people. I want to recognize that our communities are still in the fight for our lives with the coronavirus, which is why we are holding this rally for Roe virtually and by car caravan. Thank you for allowing us to be together in this virtual space to do our part to keep each other safe while demonstrating our unified support for abortion access. I also want to recognize that though it was decided by an intersectional group of leaders that this rapid response action was needed, urgency is a tool of white suppression. And while we locally made attempts to reach out to everyone in the limited time given, we apologize for folks who may have been left out of the process due to the short timeline that this event was planned. Why have we come together so quickly today? Across the nation, there are concerted efforts to deprive us of our rights to safe and legal abortion. This last recall election, we learned that California is not immune to the anti-abortion efforts. Leading candidates were very vocal about their goals to deprive our state to abortion access. This has taught us that we can't let up, we can't be complacent, and we must continue the fight for abortion access in every corner of our state. Ahead of the Supreme Court opening session this month, we are demonstrating to show our support for abortion access. We want the justices to know that America is united in its support for Roe. Oral arguments in Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health, will be heard on December 1st and could result in the complete dismantling of our right to abortion. We look forward to sharing resources with you if you or a loved one are ever in need of abortion services. Thank you.
The inaction by the Supreme Court on a blatantly unconstitutional ban has taken away a crucial right to millions of people in Texas, and without a doubt threatens their ability to make decisions about their bodies, their lives, and their futures. Many people of color, those with low incomes, and folks in rural areas face the greatest barriers to abortion access under Texas's unconstitutional SB 8 law. I'm here with Congresswoman Veronica Escobar from El Paso, Texas. She is a fierce champion of reproductive rights and a true believer that abortion is healthcare. Welcome, Congresswoman Escobar.
Hi, Stephanie. It's such a pleasure and honor to be with you. Thank you for having me.
We're just thrilled to have you. Can you give us an on-the-ground update of what's happening in Texas and how SB 8 is affecting your constituents now?
Stephanie, I have spoken with constituents who don't have health insurance. I've spoken with constituents who are advocates for the undocumented. I've spoken with physicians, with constituents who are actually in the healthcare delivery system. Universally, everyone is horrified. I have even spoken with members of my community who are more conservative than I am on issues around reproductive freedom, who have told me they know that this law has gone too far. And in our conversations, when I'm talking with folks who don't agree with me on women's reproductive rights or on reproductive rights in general, what I have told them is, please know and understand this law will not eliminate abortion. All it will do is put women at risk, and more women than ever will die. Women who will take, people who will take reproductive care into their own hands. We are going to see more botched abortions. We are going to see horrific emergency room visits. We're going to see people whose lives are dramatically and tragically changed forever. At the same time, we have to realize that not only is this law impacting Texans who want the reproductive freedom to make their own choices, but this law will impact other states across the country. It's not just Texas and Texas people who are at stake or who are at risk. This will, unfortunately, we're already seeing a domino effect. We're seeing several states across the country who are interested in enacting similar pieces of legislation. My fear is that as the Supreme Court continues to signal that it will not uphold Roe v. Wade, that we have the potential of seeing even more erosions to women's rights and to equal rights, reproductive rights, and human rights. But one of the physicians that I spoke to talked to me about doctors packing up and moving to other states. And this is another one of those very consequential impacts of this law. We're probably going to lose more OBGYNs in a state and in communities like ours that already lack significant access to healthcare providers. But there is going to be a domino effect within our state, all sorts of consequences that we're going to have to face as a result. We probably are going to lose out also on economic development opportunities. This is just tragic all the way around, but it really is most tragic for those individuals who are in a really terrible spot and need to be able to have the choice and the freedom to make decisions with their physician.
You mentioned the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts on their decision to allow SB 8 to go into effect?
I've seen a lot of folks trying to make this a nuanced argument on cable TV and, people like Senator Susan Collins, who supported the nominees and now Supreme Court justices who are on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of human rights. The bottom line, the thing that is indisputable, is that this is a gutting of Roe v. Wade. This is a gutting of the laws that protect an individual's right to choose an abortion. And, we will definitely have to wait and see what happens as various legal challenges make their way through the court system. And we'll have to see what other states are doing and how the Supreme Court rules on other states' laws that are not as draconian, that are horrible and unacceptable, but not as draconian as Texas. But the Supreme Court is now being very clear and transparent with their shadow docket in the middle of the night ruling that they will not be protecting Roe v. Wade.
Right. We're in danger. Girl, you in danger. I mean, that is the theme. What is your message to California at this time in our nation's history at this critical time?
You know, Stephanie, I like probably most Americans, I was watching the recall election against your governor very closely. You know, and I've learned to not trust polling because after what we've seen in prior years and how off these polls have been, I was really nervous. And so I was incredibly relieved that there was a landslide victory for the governor. Here's my message to California: elections matter. And as quickly as Texas has rolled back the clock by decades for women in America, that can happen in any state.
You said it. You said it. Elections matter, and that's why we're here. And Congresswoman Escobar, thank you for giving us your time and sharing your thoughts and feelings with us. We need you. We are with you, and we are here for Texas. Thank you so much for being with us.
Right back at you, girlfriend.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us, the pro-choice advocates and volunteers, along with millions of American women outraged at the passage of Texas Senate Bill 8, effectively banning abortion access to women in one of the largest states in the United States. My name is Kalika Siegel, and I'm an intersectional feminist, reproductive justice advocate, and the first African-American president of the California National Organization for Women. The passage of this law impacts each and every woman in the country, as the Supreme Court has sent us a powerful message that the right to body autonomy and privacy are under assault nationwide. It's spellbinding, yes, but not surprising, as I'd argue that this has been a part of an intentional and incremental plan to take down Roe for quite some time, and I will lay out the upcoming challenges to that precedent. The Texas law outlaws abortion before many women even know they're pregnant at just 6 weeks. It makes no exceptions for rape or incest, and many rightfully feel that we have entered a draconian era. The fact that the Supreme Court did not even hear arguments on the violation of Roe clearly demonstrates the intent of this ultra-conservative court to cast aside what has been the law of the land since 1973. The 6-week ban alone on its face is egregious, but the additional provisions of this law are even more outrageous. Unbelievably, it assigns enforcement authority to just your average ordinary citizen. So that means your neighbor, your dog walker, the guy who cut you off on the freeway, anyone, allowing them to hunt down and deny any woman the constitutional right to an abortion. The law would also permit ordinary citizens to come after anyone who helps her. And these outsourced bounty hunters would then be rewarded $10,000 each instance for their services. Talk about the Handmaid's Tale coming into fruition. Legislative action is needed now more than ever, and is actually required when the Supreme Court refuses to render justice. It's heartbreaking for me to think about, as oftentimes it's the Supreme Court that we've looked to in these difficult times on racial justice, desegregation, marriage equality, birth control, and abortion. The Supreme Court has come through when the Congress, its co-equal branch, has been at a standstill. In the next term, starting on October the 4th, the court is also set to hear a blockbuster case in Mississippi on abortion access. December 1st, SCOTUS will hear oral arguments for Dobbs v. Jackson. This is the challenge to the Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks. This case will determine whether SCOTUS, now stacked with justices who were nominated to the court by presidents who did not win the popular vote, will uphold the precedent set by Roe or fundamentally reverse it. Allowing a 15-week ban in Mississippi or explicitly overturning the right to abortion and forcing people to carry a pregnancy to term denies liberty and equality to all people who can become pregnant. And what's at stake? The Supreme Court's upcoming decision, if made on partisan lines, would roll back the constitutional right to abortion, challenging the very fabric of freedom and privacy in the U.S. and squashing the right to body autonomy. We cannot allow far-right ideologues on the Supreme Court to fundamentally undo the work on reproductive freedom of the last 50 years. Year by year, conservative legislators have been chipping away at abortion access state by state through restrictions. This has been through strategic planning and strategic action. Oftentimes, when these restrictions and access, delays, and rollbacks mainly affect Black and brown and lower income individuals, so they don't get the kind of media attention, or these incremental changes don't get the media attention they deserve. So you don't often hear about the state by state, line by line, incremental changes that have been happening all along. Make no mistake, we are in a state of an emergency for abortion access. Now more than ever, we must eat, sleep, and breathe that elections have consequences. Consequences that reach further than who is just elected president. We demand today that SCOTUS respect their oath of office to be impartial judges and to reaffirm women's right to reproductive rights under Roe v. Wade. Just before I leave you, just as important to women's rights is for Congress to pass the ERA, which we have been working on for quite some time, and to join the rest of the world in ratifying CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And I would implore you to remember that we surround them, and together we will show them what democracy looks like and sounds like by raising our voices and taking to the streets today. There may be times when we feel powerless in the face of injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to show up, show out, and protest.
Women's rights are human rights! Women's rights are human rights! Women's rights are human rights!
Abortion is healthcare. Policies that seek to restrict abortion, like what we're seeing in Texas, will create and drive environments where harmful, inhumane, and dangerous practices will take place outside of the safety of a medical environment. We cannot go back on the progress that we've made on reproductive justice and freedom. That is why access to abortion is so important.
My body, my choice! My body, my choice!
Hey everybody, I'm a local to Sacramento, and you can call me Letty. I've had a couple abortions. I'm telling my story, though, in hopes that other people will have the courage to share their stories too, so that we can lessen the stigma, story by story, and more effectively stand in solidarity with people whose reproductive choices are under attack by the state legislatures. We aim to influence those policymakers to deregulate our uteruses and personal healthcare choices by sharing some of the most private and personal decisions of our lives. Someone from an abortion clinic told me that most people who seek out their services are actually poor women of color, like I was at the time, or people who are already parents. I unexpectedly became a parent in my early 20s, but not in the way that you are thinking that it happened. My mom passed away from breast cancer in my early 20s, and I became a parent to my siblings. We came from a traditional Central American Catholic family who didn't talk about sex. I was born here in California. Actually, I remember the only time my mom even sort of mentioned sex in any way. So I was a straight A student, right? And so I was kind of shocked to see my mom jumping up and down with my aunt at my graduation. My cousin had recently graduated too. And she so happily cheered. They graduated and they're not pregnant. My jaw dropped. I was a virgin at the time, but I guess she wouldn't have known that. At the time of her death, my brother was 10 and my sister was 15 and I was 21. Raising a teen and a preteen after we'd recently lost our mom was not easy. And also, I was broke. I was a student on a Pell Grant at the local university a couple days a week. I also worked with foster kids as a residential counselor in transitional housing. There, I changed thousands of diapers. My older brother sent us some rent money from overseas. He was in the military, earning his citizenship. But still, money was really tight. I took at least one semester off school. The kids ate at school and often helped out by making easy and cheap dinners for all of us. We were barely getting by, but we were in it together. I started dating someone new. And the very first time that we had sex, the contraception didn't work. I thought my heart was going to stop when I found out that I was pregnant. I was already at my own capacity for life's drama to keep my own sanity. I like to think I would be a good mother to a baby one day, but ideally not then. Morning sickness, afternoon sickness, evening sickness. I couldn't eat or sleep well. I was devastated and desperate to reverse what had happened. I knew I wanted an abortion, but I didn't have health insurance. I told the guy. He took me to a pretty beach to talk about it. And he left the decision up to me. And I decided to abort the pregnancy, but we decided to keep it a secret from our families. We were afraid our Christian families might disown us because of the stigma. So I went to the abortion clinic. I'm really lucky to live in California, not somewhere in the South like Texas or Alabama. My life situation was hard enough without the government putting needless obstacles and regulations on my uterus and my healthcare decisions, or any body part for that matter. Or with me having to drive for hours or take lots of time off work. My state government actually cares enough about my life to make sure that I did the abortion safely. The abortion staff, they were really helpful and offered all kinds of knowledge and answered lots of questions about the abortion and breast cancer and women's health in general. I was low income, so I qualified for funding by the state of California. The staff, they warned me about the protesters, so I wore sunglasses outside when I came to my appointment. My new partner came with me. The protesters yelled some things about their own religious beliefs and handed me a flyer that I knew that I would throw away immediately inside when I got inside the clinic. A kind volunteer with a large rainbow umbrella walked us inside. After the procedure, there was some cramping, but I felt lucky and so incredibly relieved. The guy and I picked the siblings up from school later that day, and I went back to work the next day. My life was back to its normal amount of hectic. If I had it to do all over again, I would make the same decisions. I've always been pro-choice, but pro-choice doesn't mean pro-abortion. People deserve to choose whether or not to carry their pregnancy to term. And that is not the government's decision. Now, I love kids, and maybe now that the siblings are all grown up, I'll have my own baby one day or not. Ideally, I would like to plan my own parenthood. I'd like to meet someone and be so much in love with that person that I think to myself, the world needs another person like you and me. And then I'd make one. Or maybe I'd foster or adopt again. But that choice is mine. And I will fight for people all over the world to have that family making decision choice too, whether it's to have a baby or not to have a baby, or to have in vitro fertilization, or to surrogate, or to foster, or to adopt. That family making decision is private and personal. And everyone deserves that freedom of choice. So if you are listening and you are a policymaker, please work your hardest to make sure abortion is safe and legal. If you've had an abortion, whatever the reason, please consider sharing your story like I did. Because the more stories that are out there, the more commonplace it becomes, and the less of a stigma we feel. Also, please consider donating to a California Safe Abortion Fund, so that people who aren't as lucky as I was, or who just can't afford health care, can make their decision as well. Talk to your representatives. Please tell them to deregulate our uteruses. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Matsubara. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a lawyer at the Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California and a proud board member of Access Reproductive Justice. I'm happy to be with all of you in this virtual space to support abortion access and let you know about the amazing work done by dedicated people at abortion funds across the country and here in California. With anti-abortion lawmakers across the country passing abortion bans like the recent 6-week ban in Texas, and the US Supreme Court about to review a case that challenges the protections under Roe v. Wade, it is time for us to speak out and demand that people have access to the healthcare they need, no matter where they live. All people should be able to get access to abortion without shame, unnecessary restrictions, or outside interference. We have the right to an abortion, and people should be able to control their own bodies, lives, and futures. After all, abortion is safe, abortion is common, and abortion is healthcare. But even if you have legal rights to abortion, it doesn't mean that you have real access to abortion services. Many pregnant people face barriers to actually obtaining an abortion. They might not have enough money to pay for the procedure. They may live really far away from a provider. Their procedure may take more than one day, or the state may have a waiting period. Many people seeking abortions are also already parents and may not have the child care they need so that they can get to their appointment. This is where abortion funds come in. Abortion funds can provide confidential and non-judgmental information and counseling about reproductive health services, including pregnancy options and abortion services. They can help you look for a clinic that provides abortions or birth control and figure out how to pay for an abortion procedure or other reproductive health care. They can connect you with abortion doulas and other emotional support care. They can also help with funding and organizing transportation, lodging, childcare, meal funds, and other logistical barriers to accessing your procedure. These on-the-ground organizations have been doing this work for decades. They're led by people of color, young people, and those most impacted by these barriers. And they're focused on taking care of people and patients by forming support networks, funding abortions, and working to ensure that people who need abortions can get them. It's really important to support your local organizations like Access Reproductive Justice by donating, volunteering, and sharing information about the support they offer. The bilingual Access Healthline is open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and is operated by trained staff and volunteers. Their services are open to people living in California, traveling to California, or traveling from California out of state. You can find more information at accessrj.org. You can also learn about and support abortion funds in other states, including Texas, by visiting the National Network of Abortion Funds at abortionfunds.org. It's been a really hard year, and I'm really grateful to be doing this work with all of you.
To the women who hold on to courage long enough to feel beautiful, you are enough. You are composed of small revolutions. You are full moon swallowing the waves of hesitant self, and as the sunlight breaks its promise to the night, you awake. You listen to whispering leaves tempt your ancestors' tongue. You dance among apprehension, and as you seal sun and belly, skin, bone, and soul saunter across the dull pavement. Heart syncopations entice still air, but you, my dear, are a small revolution. Tell him you are the intersection of grace and pain. Tell him you are tired of dwelling in a past life. Tell him you know fourth graders that cannot read or write. Tell him the cop said it makes the arrest easier if he cannot read his rights. Tell him you are concrete words and bruised lips. Tell him you are the consequence of honesty. Tell him you are not the dark metaphor composed of despair. Tell him you are not the ashes of the phoenix. Tell him you are the fucking fire. Tell him you are angry. Tell them as sun rays cascade over the day, burning a million shades of gray, miracles house your body. Tell them you are woman. Tell them to be woman is to cross legs with grace while bearing the burdens of life. It's to conceal the 19th Amendment in womb. Is to be taught how to swallow tongue like finest delicacy. Is to listen. It's to sit in silence. Is to know that at any moment, the rights to my body could configure the outline of a question mark. To be woman is to be marked by measurements. Is to present rejection in the form of flattery. Is to pray you do not become his prey. Is to resist the systemic noose. Is to be slut-shamed and called loose. But I mean, doesn't that make me a woman? To be wedged between arbitrary and absolute, but you, my dear, are a small revolution. You are untamed kinks and cocoa butter skin. You are unconditioned cuticles and perfected flaws. You are wonder wrapped around withered truth. You are weeping willow casting its shade on summer days. You are persuasive melodies and cross rhythm thighs. You are morning dew clinging to rose leaves and thorns. Tell 'em you matter. Tell 'em you matter. Tell 'em you are phenomenally woman.
I am Gloria Barreto. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers, and I serve as a clinic manager in our most rural clinic located in Redding, California. We have clinics in Chico and Grass Valley and serve individuals with comprehensive reproductive health care. We have been providing abortions for over 45 years and are firmly rooted in self-determination. Self-managed abortion is another way to provide abortions, where clients have the opportunity to have an abortion at their convenience and where they are most comfortable. At this time, we have the capacity to offer self-managed abortion here at Women's Health Specialists. It is done through virtual video. We offer self-managed abortion in our clinic up to 10 weeks. During their virtual appointment, clients have time with a provider and an abortion-trained health worker who make sure our clients are well informed about the process and procedure. The woman is given an informed consent a few days before her appointment to read over. Then, during her appointment, the provider and the abortion-trained health worker will go over the informed consent again to make sure the client understands it and has no questions. At this time, clients do have to come into the clinic from rural areas to pick up the pills. It is a limited time visit of the exchange of the medications. What is good about this method is it gives clients full control of their bodies. It makes them feel powerful and is very flexible. It is self-administered. They can be where they want to be when taking the pill, and they can do it privately if they need to. It is very convenient for clients who do not have availability to get away due to transportation issues, balancing childcare, jobs, or have financial struggles, especially right now during COVID pandemic. Our agency has made a lifelong commitment to represent the clients that we serve. We think it is important for us to understand women of all color. We understand that their barriers are a little different, and we do our best to accommodate them. We have made it our job that we do not make assumptions. We are dedicated to deal with the women on an individual basis. The women's experience is what matters to us. Women's Health Specialist runs in a non-judgmental environment, serving our communities openly. Our organization continues to strive to find ways to better assist and serve our clients with their needs. Tenemos una visión, un mundo donde las mujeres controlan su propio cuerpo, reproducción y sexualidad. El Centro de Salud de la Mujer Feminista, especialistas en salud de la mujer, se dedica a brindar atención médica controlada por mujeres y abogar por todas las opciones para todas las mujeres. Solo con dignidad y libertad de elección pueden las mujeres alcanzar su máximo potencial. Consideramos que los cuerpos de las mujeres son normales y saludables y que las mujeres siempre tomarán las mejores decisiones sobre el cuidado de la salud por sí mismas, si tienen toda la información. Gracias.
Abortion is healthcare. The stigma has to stop if we're going to win this fight. Abortion is healthcare, period.
Abortion is essential. Bans off our bodies. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is essential. Bans off our bodies. My body is my own. Bans off our bodies.